on their way down, I'm sure. After Kiddush, Shabbat Shalom, I hope everybody had a little physical sustenance. So the idea is that we are going to spend this time in this session reflecting on the impact of the partnership on ourselves as a community, for those of us who've been around for a while and participating in the visits of our partners here and on our trips to Israel that took us many times to learn with them and to sometimes stay with them, to see what is the transformational power of this relationship. Of course, there are a number of members of the delegation who are here for the first time as part of the delegation. Some of them have been here for services or to visit, but as part of the delegation, we haven't yet, in many ways, we haven't yet begun to connect the institution, our institution, BJ, with the place where they serve and work. But that will come, and maybe they have some reflections based on their experience in the last 24 hours. But we'd like to just get at, what is this about, and how has it impacted us? And then on Monday and Tuesday, we're going to look at other issues, and in the salons at other issues, and hopefully also have a chance to look at the future unfolding of the partnership. And that's really where also Steve's insistence and persistence was, that we should not just celebrate the past, but also look at the future and build it, and put the building blocks that will continue these partnerships and continue engagement in constituencies here at BJ, particularly younger people, and as well as on the Israeli side. So we'd like to open it. Sarah told yesterday, this, in many ways, it happens sometimes an angel, comes and redirects us in a new direction. And Rabbi Rachel Cowan, Alei Shalom, is the person who made the first connection. She was working at Cummings. She was looking at the opportunities to support Israeli organizations doing interesting work, and she had met Sarale and Moti, and then through Sarale and Moti, the connection happened here with BJ. And so, two people, with Marcelo, with me, and then we opened up, and then other people started joining, and with Nami also we had a long time connection, and many people at BJ have a connection with Nami. So, sometimes one person or two people, and then out of there we build a whole thing. So some reflections, same with Esteban and Rani. I mean, there's so many stories here. We're not going to go back to recount every one of those stories, which are great in and of themselves. But so, who would like to talk first?
The elder statesperson here. Wow, you guys are resilient from 8:45 this morning. Kol hakavod. Can you hear me now? I'm just saying you're resilient from being here from 8:45 in the morning, some of you, until now. So thank you very much. Wow, it's hard to say in very concise what BJ means to me, to us perhaps, but I think for a lot of Israelis, probably the most powerful BJ modeling has been the power of joyful prayer. And almost instant access into prayer, into tefillah, that for many Israelis who, you understand, they understand every single word they're saying when they open a siddur, and therefore they don't want to say it. Do I really believe in an all-powerful, all-merciful, peacemaking God? I mean, one advantage is when you don't know Hebrew, you're lifted by the words and the melody, and for Israelis, there are a number of obstacles. And even though I grew up in the conservative movement, in Camp Ramah, where we had joyful prayers, you needed a lake to be able to really have the powerful experience. And BJ taught us that, no, you don't need a lake. It can be in your synagogue, inside your synagogue. Also, so I think the ability, the access to prayer, the sense that we're all trying to find a new, before there was post-denomination, you know, we were speaking in ways to each other that's post-denominational today, that what's vibrant about the Jewish people, Jewish culture, Hebrew, and the way you can do that as chalutzim, and there are a lot of chalutzim here, pioneers, including BJ in the sense, the second thing I take from BJ is the power of renewing and trying again and trying, see if this works, and if that doesn't work, we'll try something. I had a flash memory today, Rolly. Once you change the seating here, and it was radical, and you said, please, no emails, let's give it 3 weeks, and then, that's right, exactly. I don't want to say what happened, but for me, the very essence that you can mess things up, that we need to be, you know, what's the word for, you know, instigators, you know, we're revolutionaries. That's what the Jewish tradition is. It is, you know, is it a tradition of renewal or of change, or is it, that's who we are? So I will say that. And another thing I'd say, you know, many synagogues, because of differences of opinion, might have this minyan and that minyan, and they barely meet, okay? They are housed. And what BJ has done is offer different options also to all its members. So I had the pleasure, the blessing of praying with Rachel and Marcelo, and where's David in the spirituality minyan, and now your piyut minyan. So I think, at least for me, the power of prayer, the power of not being afraid to change, the power of looking for partners everywhere. So I'll start with that, and thank you. Okay, I jumped Nachshon. Now, where's everybody else?
Hi, Shabbat Shalom. Wow, I don't know where to start because I feel, and I said yesterday, that this is a home for us. And if I go to the story of how we started Beit Tfilah Israeli, the story of Beit Tfilah Israeli in Tel Aviv is attached to BJ in a way that you cannot tell the story of Beit Tfilah without BJ. We started 23 years ago that we were here in a program, Rani and me and other 10 Israelis, as many groups that come here to daven for Kabbalat Shabbat. And the people, the Israelis that were with us, they were in tears with their eyes, also Orthodox and also secular. They sense that they did all the way to here for an experience of prayer that for the first time for them was meaningful, and for us, for everybody. And this is like a mythological story of Beit Tfilah that we were walking out of BJ, and we said, okay, we need to build something in Tel Aviv, not to imitate BJ, but to create a place, a space where we can experiment with prayer and try to bring the essence of what we feel or what we felt here in the local language, in the local cultural language of Israel, of Tel Aviv. And it was like a crazy idea because there was nothing like this in Tel Aviv before. I mean, there were synagogues, but there was a need of something that comes from bottom up. And the minute we started, we felt the support of Rolly and Marcelo and Felicia and Steve in all kind of ways. And you walked with us the whole walk of creating from zero, from nothing, creating a vibrant community in Tel Aviv. And this dialogue and this relationship, and it continues 23 years later. I mean, I still today, I learned so much from the service that you did today and yesterday, as much as I learned from you, from our talks and from our experiences together. And there is a story that maybe some of you already know, because I told you, but part of also of the development of Beit Tfilah, it's also you're part of the story. I mean, the first time that we had a group from abroad that wanted to pray with us in Tel Aviv was when BJ, I think there was 180. No, even before. Yeah, in 2007, we were like 50, 60 people in Kabbalat Shabbat every week, every Shabbat. And then Rolly said, okay, we are coming to pray with you, to daven with you at Kabbalat Shabbat. We are about 80 or 60 people, so prepare the place. And our space, it's like maybe 8. Yeah, yeah, it's like this, you know. So we needed a place to do the Kabbalat Shabbat with the BJ delegation, with the BJ group. So we were looking for a place. And we asked, I think that you were in the Dan Hotel. We asked the Dan Hotel if can we have a space here so we can do a Kabbalat Shabbat with music. And they say, no, you can't do it, because if you do it, the hotel won't be kosher anymore because you're using music in Shabbat. So I was very angry. I went to the next hotel. All the hotels are lined up in Ayarkon Street. And I asked for a space for a Kabbalat Shabbat in the Jewish state, in Tel Aviv, the first Hebrew city. And they say, no, no, no. Until at the end of all the hotels, you got to the port of Tel Aviv. So that's why we got to the port, and I asked, maybe we can do it here. There's no kosher here in the port, it's in the beach. And they say, okay, it's weird, but you can do like a Kabbalat Shabbat. So we did our first Kabbalat Shabbat at the port of Tel Aviv with BJ in 2007. And after, we started like 150 people, BJ and Beit Tfilah, and at the end we were like 300 people, because the people were coming and joining us. And at the end of this first service, the people from the port, they asked us if we can do it every week. And since then, we are every week in the summers for the last 20 years doing, and I want to say that it's not, for us, this was a pivotal moment, because doing our tefillah indoors in our space, beautiful space in central Tel Aviv, or just out there in the port with everybody can watch and everybody can join. It's a completely different story, because from this moment on, we were so visible. So people were. For the last years, every Shabbat, there are like 1,000 people coming for Shabbat in the Kabbalat Shabbat in the port, and many other places, they want this to happen in their places. So we replicated our model of public space Shabbat services in Israel because of BJ.
I want to tell a brief mirror to this story. So this was in 2007, and then we had a service in the port, and then in the morning we did a smaller service. You had an old Sefer Torah from Argentina in Alma. So I went there, and we had a beautiful service there. Felicia happened to be in Israel. She was on sabbatical. And then after that day, I saw Felicia. I said, I am so envious of Beit Tfilah. I mean, it's fresh, it's new. They have all this service. They have so much enthusiasm. We are like old, tired. I mean, doing the same service every week, the same thing. It's boring, it's heavy. We have to learn from them. It's fresh. They put poetry. They put these songs. I was so full of like desire to replicate what they were doing. So this is really Chevruta. This is the real partnership.
I wanted another story for this. That when we lived here for 3 years, and I was going with BJ Israel trip to bring a Torah to Nigun Alev. It was at the same year, and it was very, very moving. I was here, and my congregation and my people were in Israel, and I came from here to bring a Torah. And we are driving in the bus with the Torah buckled in the first seat, and I'm telling people that people in Nigun Alev, which is my community that we established in 2000, they are arguing about the Torah, and they are saying we don't want a Torah because it's going to be like idol, and people are gonna kiss it, and we don't need it. We're gonna borrow Torah whenever we need, and it started like to be an argument, and I was telling the people from BJ, because I was trying to bridge this too, because the people came enthusiastic with bringing a Torah to congregation in Israel, and in Nigun Alev they were like hesitating. They didn't know what to do with it, and I remember you, Rodi, say the same thing. Say, I wish we can doubt our Torah and re-choose it, and it was like a light for me, because I was so embarrassed that that somebody's giving you such a big present and you don't want to get you like lo toda. So I think this is something very important that I learned from you all, that it's okay to try. And I think one of the biggest thing that we got from this relationship is to rename things. Like in our era, we didn't have rabbis, we didn't know rabbis out of, in the media, and they were Orthodox rabbi and they were men. So we had to learn again the language about what is tefillah, what is a rabbi, do we need a rabbi, do we need tefillah, how do we do tefillah? So, and you were like escorting us, you gave us hands, and you took us in this, just like Esteban said, you took us, and you were very patient and also very curious. I didn't feel like you were trying to tell us, this is the way to do it. You really asked us, what do you need? And I remember then that like before Nigun Alev was established, we sat in Ganigar, and we were like doing kind of Kabbalat Shabbat, and then we talked with you later, and you said, and we said, I don't think anyone going to come every week. Maybe we have to do it once a month. And you said, that's okay. Start even once a month, that's okay. And I think in less than a year, we are already doing it every week, because we discovered the need. I think one of the things that Israeli secular people don't know the need. The need is there, but they're not in contact with it. And for us coming here for the retreats and later for the women retreat, and it was like discovering the need of spirituality, of Jewish spirituality, not just spirituality. And this is what I mean by learning the language and then translate it to our needs. And I think this is like one of the most precious things that you gave us, like to discover our own language.
I have the counter story to the, like whoop, 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 whoop. In the same way that we brought a group for Chen's ordination. Also, they weren't sure they wanted a rabbi. Chen went to HUC to go to rabbinical school after a number of years of realizing that was her need. And the community, just as they were not sure they wanted a Torah, they also weren't sure that they wanted a rabbi, someone who had an official... Right, that's right. And I remember feeling how painful that was, that we could bring an unencumbered sense of celebration, which was not true in the community, because the community was wrestling with what that meant for them. And which was painful. I know it was painful for you, and I was glad that we could bring a kind of uncomplicated celebration of that. But I think one of the things that we've learned through the relationship is what it means to navigate that. as American Jews, I don't think we have much of a window into the complexity. Like, being Jewish means a certain thing in America. Maybe you're religious or maybe you're not, right? Like, those terms don't carry the same complexity here that they do in Israel. And I think, like, for me, I'll just speak for myself. I have like a distant cousin who lives in Israel. My friends that are Israeli, that are not you, are people who made Aliyah from my Hebrew university or from camp. So they're Americans who made Aliyah, and they've often duplicated their American experience. They live in Jerusalem, so they're in a very American environment. And I think the relationship, I mean, certainly my relationship with you, over one of the things I feel I've been gifted in this relationship, and I think our community has, is some window into the wrestling, which means also that we're accountable in ways that we wouldn't be if we weren't being asked, because we're seeing you wrestle when certain things like the language means nothing if you don't know Hebrew, and I think watching the wrestling that you do kind of asks us to ask questions that we might not ask otherwise. And I think even that's true about the tefillah, about the prayer. I think it's true about what the state means and the complexity of the state. And I think, most of us have either a mythological relationship with Israel because we, our parents or we were alive when it was born, and it has kind of a mythic quality. We have the black and white films of people dancing around, and when the state was born, doing the hora, like those are our ideas about Israel. And then or we read the paper, and the news is the news, which is not easy to take in these last 30 some. I feel like I'm the crossover generation of people who didn't grow up with the mythic Israel. My first memory is actually the Lebanon War, or actually Sadat and the peace accords in '79, but then since then, and so it's complicated. And I feel like to have a personal window into the relationship through you makes it real. It makes us accountable in real ways for our own religious story and our own spirituality, and also our own political identities and relationships with the land, which plays out in very extreme ways in our community here. So I feel like that's one of the things that the complexity piece has been a real gift in the relationship.
I'd like to add my own comment, a follow-up to Felicia's. I think I personally also gained from the relationship we became friends. That's invaluable, that you can speak with friends very openly and directly, and sometimes disagree, and sometimes agree, and talk about consequential things, about spirituality, about Torah, about the spiritual search that we all are on, about politics, about everything, family, that we could forge these friendships and learn from you the Torah of a human being in Eretz Israel, which is different than the Torah of a human being here. You live there as a majority, we live here as a minority. There are very, very major differences between being Jewish there and being Jewish here. And I think that exchange, with open hearts and with open eyes has been incredibly edifying and enlightening and invaluable for me personally, and I know for many people here. And loving, yes. I mean, it's very, very difficult to understand what a Jewish person, a particular person, not the people, particular persons, how they live their lives there, how they struggle with the meaning of being Jewish in Israel, the meaning of Torah, the meaning of spirituality, whatever. the wrestling with all of that, and to be able to have this conversation has been incredible.
Okay. So I think my name is Guy. And I think if you can imagine what it means to be third generation in kibbutz. My grandfather or grandmother made Aliyah in 1923, what's called the third Aliyah. And of course, they came from Belarus. They lived the cheder, the yeshiva, the shul, and leave it back and create a new society that had to bring a new Psorah to the old Jewish nation and the right things to do. And in order to get all the resource to do that, they must say very bad things about the diaspora and the way how to be a Jew in the diaspora relate to what we are doing here now. We need a lot of understanding what is going on here in order to get the power to do something out of the chain that all the revolution they want to do. So to be a third generation to this story, that my grandfather, when he walk in the fields, he hear the pray, but he go after the, after the tractor or whatever, only doing that, but never say that. I never heard from him anything regard pray or coming to the shul together. It was a silence. And my father had to fight for the country, to independent war and all the wars after that, and to make, the kibbutz successful, and didn't mention anything regard Judaism, regard what else. So for me, as a third generation of that, to go back or to find my way to pray, it's something that I couldn't imagine. And I'm sure that you understand that. And the way that we made in the Madrasha, Anim College, in the first things, was everything through our thought, not for our belief. We try to open the Aron HaSfarim and to read from the book. Great. And only to understand what is written there and to find a way how to feel that that we belong to that. It's tell our story. Of course, we taught like Tanakh, but still we never met the Talmud, whatever. Only from the Tanakh to Palmach to Bialik. So this was our path through our mind. We create Batei Midrash and study together, but we're really afraid for meet the ceremony that meet the feeling. And in order to do that, we had to find someone that is very similar to us, that his lifestyle is very similar to us. And when you look left and right in Israel, you will never find them. They all ultra-Orthodox or modern Orthodox or secular like us. So there is no any aspiration that we can take from that. And then to find people like you, that's the way that we felt 28 years ago, that the lifestyle that you live, the value that you are believe, it's not only to be connect with Israel through contribute to ambulance, to find people that bring something meaningful to you. It was something very, very unique for us, It's opened our mind in order to see what else there are there. And I remember that after the first time that I came here, I came back to Israel and I thought, wow, they can pray because they don't understand what the word said. And I cannot pray because I understand what the word says, but that I don't have the nigun that will lead me to my heart and not to my brain. And after the practicing with you here to do that, we find a way to live with the word without that it will attack us and tell us, oh, you are not what you think you are the Orthodox. And it's really painful path to do that and to find it in yourself. And I can say today, when I sit here all the day, and think that the last time that I were here in Shabbat was years ago, in the Bar Mitzvah. Okay. And it was before October 7. Yeah. And it's first time that I'm here, like a lot of hours. And it's like feel that I'm at home. That everything that happened in Israel can be a little bit more quiet. A little bit, you don't have to get to be in touch with all your resource, and you can line back and feel what is really happening. And it's like a second home in terms of that, to move from my life in Israel and my Jewish identity that can do like the circle or maybe the spirala. Spirala?
Not a Hebrew word.
But lo im hey. And all the time to find the new ways on this path. So I want to say that I'm not sure that it was really said, but what I am all the time here, without saying that for BJ, or at least for the leadership of BJ, the relationship with us, it wasn't only to give. It was very meaningful to find Israeli that looking for, that we have the common value that it's not only to be in touch or engage with Israel, it's the person that Rolly just mentioned. It's not only that we are nice, which I'm not sure that we're always nice, but it's really that we can see that our goals are the same in terms of what it means to be a Jew in these days.
Okay. There are a few contradictions here in BJ. So first you take us to this wonderful prayer and I was up in the sky. Then I took the bagel and I'm down with the cream, cheese, and then 4 shots of whiskey. I'm not sure I'm coherent. So that's why I was looking forward to this moment. I wrote something, so I hope I'll be coherent. The first thing to say is, there are many things to say about the magic of BJ, and I'm sure it can be, you can tell more. It's hard to analyze magic. A lot of it is due to the wonderful leadership and to a certain history and biography. I would like to say also that, that your ability to gather us, I've rarely spent Shabbat with any of the people here. And I live 5 minutes from Oded, who's a wonderful rabbi next to me. We've never spent Shabbat together. I think the only person I really spent Shabbatot with is Esteban. And also I have to say that in the history of all these things that have happened, you have put us together with Nigun Alev. And kind of you have somehow, like the famous story about the treasure in Prague, you've taken us away to have us sit together and talk between ourselves, the Israelis, and going back home and creating a sort of a network. I don't know, I don't like this word network. I say something about vocabulary in a meeting. But actual people from Emek Israel, who are the grandchildren of our Chalutzim, that we didn't speak on that level ever before, and it's because of you that we made that connection. And the second person I'm pointing to is Ronen. That if you had told me that I would sit next to a person like Ronen, with this, from the background and everything, after 25 years, and he would be our chairman of the board, I would say you're dreaming. כאילו, זה לא יכול להיות. And it had happened. So this is really something about the magic of this space. But I was also trying to think about, beyond the word magic, what are the things that I can say after more than 20 years that really made this happen? So yes, personal relationships. Steve was telling that to us all the time. And being this professional Jew in Jewish education, Hartman and other institutions, which are doing a wonderful job, all of them, I've kind of created this a little bit of resentment to Jewish peoplehood. You know, all those vocabularies, I really thought in those 20 years there was no additional vocabulary. There were relationships. And I remember, and I can tell you how it looks. Our son Alon, at home we call him Guri. He's now in pre-army preparation. And when he was 18, it was a year ago, there was a big storm here in New York, something floods and everything. He said, would you call Steve and ask him if he's okay? I said, of course he's okay. No, it's not like, but you know, this sense that my kid is concerned with my friend in New York. This is not Jewish peoplehood. This is just knowing people, knowing their kids, knowing how they feel, and being concerned. And the telephones that we got, when our son-in-law went to Gaza and is now in Gaza, every other day, is he okay? Are you okay? This is not conceptual. This is actual bonding and actual love and actual friendship, and sometimes also disagreements, of course. I think that's the cornerstone of this whole thing, that there were no, and by the way, this is how it was able to be transformed during the years, because relationships are bigger than ideologies. It's not that we were not here to create a connection. The connection is sincere, and I think that the other word for me, and in that I want to say, one of the most unrated prime ministers from Israel, you know, they all say Rabin and Begin and Ben-Gurion, of course. They always forget Levi Eshkol, who was a very good prime minister, a very, you know, diasporic, non-heroic. And he used to say, and I think it's very Chazal, it's very sages, it's very Talmudic, big issues demand small answers, small solutions. Relationship between Israelis and Jewish Americans. What can you say? There are 10,000 kilometers in between. Small solutions, telephone calls, recurrent meetings that you're insisting of. Bring your people to Israel. Have us meet and sit together. And do other things, not talk about our relationship, but simply pray together, eat together, travel together, talk about our tzuras and about our happiness and everything. By the way, I think one of the things that I would say thinking together is that we need to bring more Israelis to hear not only the leadership, but kind of creating these recurrent meetings that will sustain this relationship for years. So the other word that I would like to reiterate, besides small word, personal relationship, is simply sincerity. Being sincere, I mean, all of us here, I think I speak for myself, okay, I don't know. There is this spiritual quest, and you have your spiritual quest, and we met on the path on this spiritual quest. And we are traveling through this spiritual quest. And by the way, speaking about the magic of BJ in that respect, I think it stands here. The spiritual quest and the opening for different options all the time, not being stuck, it was mentioned before, but it's not even just the different options, but the feeling that we are always only on the way. And my personal biography, my father is Orthodox, my late mother was secular. They both came here and they both loved BJ. My mother never had a synagogue in life. This was a place, not she didn't enter, it was meaningless for her. No God, no nothing. And she said, Rani, I loved it. And my father, who never entered the synagogue where they play on Shabbat and sit in mixed church, said, Rani, I loved it. Okay, so but I think they were able to take it because there is this quest and this openness all the time. While you're doing things and you have your way, the openness is here. And maybe last but not least, again, of course, strategic planning and planning ahead and everything, but there is a sense of belief that we have to go together. And we walk together, and sometimes we plan, and it works, and sometimes we plan, and it doesn't work, but we keep on walking together. And like Esteban, this mythological but true story that you went on from hotel to hotel to hotel to hotel until another solution was found and it became such a hit. If you'd ask us before that, would you go on the public sphere to do Kabbalat Shabbat? I would tell you, what are we, Chabadniks? Go ahead. But it turned to be, you know, the crown jewel of our activities. So it's planning and then believing that the path somehow will lead itself. I know it might sound too optimistic, and I have a lot of things to say of criticism and self-criticism. We haven't cracked, but one last sentence. I don't think we have really cracked the issue of community. I mean, you have a wonderful community here functioning in a fantastic way. Bet Fila, I don't speak of all the people here. I think the issue of community in an urban, secular city like Tel Aviv is still something that we're struggling with. But we're walking. We're walking because we have this belief in the direction, and I personally have such a belief in this connection that will nourish us for the many struggles that we have ahead, and also for the good times.
Thank you, Rani. I'm Ronen, and I'm also part of Beit Filah. And I want to reflect on the fact that I actually learned about DJ by proxy. They are the proxy. And yeah, and you know, I learned about the ability to kind of observe your own Judaism in a secular city like Tel Aviv, and we have many discussions about the ability to have a community. I think we can't, but that's an internal discussion. I think I learned it from Esteban and Rani, and all over the years, I'd say probably 17 years now, that since I've met Beit Filah Israeli, there was always that high notion, that sentiment of BJ. You know, we are like BJ. I never knew what BJ is, but I heard from these two about BJ. And then a few years later, when I was here with my family, we came in the Yamim Noraim, we came to a service here with our kids. So for me, BJ was always, you know, a sentiment, not a myth, but a sentiment. I want to say BJ invented a culture. And I think the interesting thing about inventing a culture is that it has to evolve. It can't just, because if a culture stays the same over all the advancement and changes in society, then it becomes fundamentalist or outdated, and it either dies or becomes, I don't know, a sect. But in that sense, I think that the ability of the BJ community, I don't know what was here 200 years ago, but I want to imagine. My imagination is that along the years, things changed all the time, and all the time with a new rabbi, with Rabbi Marshall Myers, and with you, and it's going to change. I think, and that's for me is the important thing, is the fact that there is a community that is able to evolve and change and find itself in a new place because of a new reality and a new social environment, and what happened, I think, in the last 2 years is that change became like super, super, super dramatic. And I still remember when you were in Israel last January, and I met the delegation who came to Israel. in our Achim Laneshek's headquarters, I really thought back then that the importance of the connection is the ability to reconnect American Judaism. That's what I was talking about. You know, yes, I know that many liberal American Jews are angry about Israel. That was because of all the bad things that we've been doing before October 7th. There are enough of those. And I said, okay, listen, the liberal population in Israel has just waken up, and we are sort of a representative of that's the waking up. And well, there is a chance here to kind of resolve some of these issues between the liberal democratic Judaism in the US and the state of Israel. And it seems like a noble enough goal. I think a year and a few months later, we also in Israel, we understand that the challenge ahead of us is by far bigger. Back then in January, I didn't know that we will be in such a dire strait situation as we are now. And what I now kind of wish is that the ability to use that understanding of how do you change when situation dramatically changes, and my view is that Israel requires, so I'd say the fact that Judaism in Israel required some kind of a change. All the people here, except me, were understanding it for the last 25 years. I think in parallel, we all understood that democracy is now under attack in Israel. And back then, a year ago, we didn't know how much it's going to be under attack in here. And democracy is under attack. And I think the challenge ahead of us, and that's why I hope the BJ community would be a partner to a lot of activists in Israel, is how do we not just fix democracy on one track and then fix Judaism on the other track, but rather understand that what we need to fix is the state of Israel as a Jewish democratic state, and because they totally come together. They are not two separate tracks, and that's a big challenge, because what was happening in Israel in the last 25, 30 years, and I think Sarah and others explained this, was that secular people were diverting away from Judaism. So we, secular people, we took democracy for granted. We all thought that we are a democracy, and democracy is very, very strong. It's going to stay forever. Wrong. And we said, okay, Judaism is not that important for all of us because we are living in a democratic state. And I think what we now understand is that unless we're going to find a way to rebuild Israel as a Jewish democratic state, as it says in Megillat Ha'atzmaut, in the Charter of Independence, unless we do it, we're going to lose both Judaism and democracy to the fundamentalists, because they are attacking both vectors. The fundamentalists, you know, all these Smotrich and his friends, they but I don't think they are Jewish. They say they are doing it from a Jewish place, but I think they are just fundamentalists. They are Jewish fundamentalists, but they are not different than any other fundamentalists from other religions in that sense. And I think unless we understand that Judaism is a democratic religion and Israel is a Jewish democratic state, and unless we understand that this comes together, we're going to lose both. We're going to lose Israel as a democracy, and we're going to lose Israel as a modern Jewish state. It's going to declare itself as Jewish, same as Iran declares itself as Islamist, you know. But it's not going to be the real Judaism. And the whole big story that I've just told is because I think we will need, first of all, a very deep partnership in that sense between Jews all over the world, because the problems are very similar in that sense, besides the fact that we are the majority and you are a minority, but it's the same. And the other thing is that we will need a lot of creativity and thoughts about changing, because it's a complex challenge.
Can I say something slightly controversial? It's very important to have this, love fest, I agree. And I would say there are only two synagogues in the world I cry in. One is Kol Neshama and the other is B'nai Jeshurun. And I do that because I feel safe enough to say things that are also painful. So I think part of our journey together is not just sharing, even what I said at the beginning, the joy and prayer and culture, but sharing our deepest fear and our deepest pain about what's going on. And I was struck, of course, and as I have been on my numerous visits here over the past 15 months, the prayer for peace and Palestinians that you are able to say, and we can't quite say it. We're not quite there in the sense that, and I can give an example. Since the war started, we've always said a prayer for the soldiers, IDF. That's part of our lives, okay? Our families, our sons, our daughters, you name it. And since the war, Oded, our rabbi, started adding the names of our soldiers in our community. Some 60 of our children and members are fighting. So we are in a place now, we mention, of course, the suffering of Gazans in other contexts. We are not quite able, unless you are a rabbi, you're my rabbi, to say, and I sat here this morning listening to it, hearing your pain and your fears about Israel. What have we turned into, okay? And we're here to present, no, we are not just that. We are not just that. We are much more than that. So I hope we use this period also for us to understand why you need to say a prayer like that. And I truly say it out of love and affection, and why we can't. Not because we're, unfeeling, because we're definitely, as has been said this morning, and we're not even post-trauma in Israel. We are deep into this trauma. Yes, Judaism and democracy and, what's been going on. So I hope, and I say this with love and not with judgment, that we find ways to understand a kind of a new way to pray together, a new way to really help create the Judaism that we each is joyous in a time of tremendous fear and dread about our Jewish future.
No, I don't know. No, I don't know what to say. I wanted to say other things, but now I'm completely... No, I wanted to say three things that BJ affected my life and the life of the surrounding. But I want to start from three stories, three effects. The one started today, here. I saw two pictures. One is what Nami was talking, the prayer you did for the children in Gaza and our children. And I said, I'm so happy you do that. As if you're saying me, and I'm ashamed I can. The synagogue of Cheni did it, and they were attacked for that exactly. Attacked physically. We call it a pogrom. It was not less than that. And I was so happy when you did it. And then I saw Felicia leading the kids there, talking with the kids, and she talked about who was in Israel. So for me, number one is BJ, is the connection to Israel. The fact that 31 years I'm coming here, doesn't matter how controversial it is, and I know BJ went through difficult times about the fights about what should be your opinion about Israel. But one thing I felt always, that it wasn't conditionable. Never, and for me it's the deadline. I'm not ready to talk with Americans that question the question if should Israel exist or not. For me it's the deadline, and I never felt it. So that's number one. Really getting support, and again, I said it many times, I'm saying it again, your delegation in January was a big deal for us, And again, what's happening now for us, so I'm here 24 hours, maybe 48, and I feel, I spoke with Steve before, and I think it's a healing, and it's like a bubble of healing for a minute. And I hope I'll go back, and I want to take the prey and dare to put it in the public sphere of our. So that's number one. Number two, we brought once, after we spoke with Felicia and with the rabbis, we decided to bring a group of women to the women retreat. That changed our life as women Jews in Israel. After Rabin's assassination, we wanted to create a Bet Midrash just for women. No, we sat with men and women, Orthodox and secular, and we realized during that Bet Midrash that we need our own, just us for women, secular and Orthodox sitting together, because they are issues of us. And I remember when I came to the women retreat with a group of women, it was the first time I heard only women pray. And then I understood why Orthodox are afraid of that. They're right. Completely right. It's so powerful. And it was, so we said, wow, we need to do that in Israel. We need to go back. And then we asked Rachel and Felicia to come, because we don't dare to do it ourselves. It was too, and we were looking for Orthodox women that will be ready to come. And I remember I spoke with one of the leaders of the Orthodox women there. She said, no Orthodox women will come to the retreat, because they has to be, but they came. And since then, we started a tradition and it was for these women, our friends, Orthodox, first time they stood far away, remember? From the Torah, because they couldn't dare even thinking that they'll, and then it became so powerful. And we started like years. We built, again with Steve, we built a whole section of women in Judaism on the name of Elga. Remember, Steve? Okay. So that's story number two. And story number three is the effect, the triple effect that there is in Israel. And I want to force the young generation, I don't know why they are not speaking. Ayala is sitting there, Ilana, and I invited you. No, we talk about the future. Let's say something about the effect. Why are you here? You have to say it, Ayala. So I'll say something about our triple effect in Israel. How many, I remember when we started it, there was, after 10 years, it was Steve's birthday, and I called Steve from a gathering, talking about network, a gathering of a lot of, I think we've been tens of us, of initiatives that started all over Israel. In May, and it was around Tisha B'Av זה היה. אני חושב משהו כזה. And sorry for the Hebrew. And then tens of groups that started to arouse, slowly want to do this way of creating their own Kabbalat Shabbat. And my real victory, now I'll tell you a very personal story. When we established a midrasha, one of the leaders of the Orthodox movement in Israel took me with a taxi to Tel Aviv. And I told him about that we are creating a midrasha, and he said, I want to tell you the truth. You, us, seculars, your wagon will always be empty. And you know why? Because you can choose. We cannot choose. So it for years will stay like that. And then my revenge to him, 20 years later, my son was in the army. He was in the office, officer unit, and they had on Shabbat, they had a quest, חידון כזה? כן, חידון, a quest, about Judaism. And he won! So we are not an empty wagon. And my family still, they are laughing at me at Shabbat dinner. They don't want to do it because everything we learned here, yeah? So they didn't, and when I'm not there with their kids, now I have two married, they're doing that with them. And my three girls, right? Remember? And Cheni, when we started Nigun Alev, we wanted to do bat mitzvah again because we learned it. So Cheni learned to read in the Bible and in the Torah together with my girl, my oldest girl, and Nami brought the Torah because the council in our area wasn't ready to give the. So just imagine what a journey we did since then and how triple effect it has about thousands of Israelis in Israel. So thank you for that.
So maybe a couple of last comments before we. So anybody would like to just reflect on?
So I just want to comment from my experience for the last 30, well, maybe 32 hours here. I think the most important thing is it's a kind of a connection of siblings. So it's like a big brother who loves me and wants the best for me. Thank you. And sees little brother. No, I'm fine. So, yeah. Yeah, thank you, yeah. No, so, a big brother who sees his little brother, and he's in a bit of a stretch. He doesn't know exactly what to do and how to do it. And the big brother doesn't criticize him. He's just there, listening, loving, helping, leading by example. And I think we need all the examples we can have. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for being that for us.
Something about the trans-denominational effort. I'm also aware of the time, and not your time, I'm talking about Israel time. It's demonstrations time in Israel. I assume our older son is there together with the youth. And one of the incredible things that has happened because of the big drama and catastrophe we're experiencing is that people who, for different reasons, some of them are very good and some of them are not really relevant, refused to work together on anything for many, many years, now realize that they have to find a way of working together. It goes for political groups who realize that if we will walk and march in rallies only with those who think exactly like us, we won't even be seen. But if we're willing to think of the wider tent that brings us together, will be a very big march in the streets. And in Jerusalem, it also means that Orthodox, Reform, Conservative, Secular are marching together. And in our area of Jerusalem, right outside of Kol HaNeshama, right next to where for much too many months, we had the very big picture of Karina, Anna's cousin, who was a hostage in Gaza, and now there's a very big sign saying, Karina is home, we're waiting for everyone to be home. There is a Shabbat noon demonstration of different congregations from the area. Orthodox, conservative, unaffiliated, Reform, and many others that come and join. I think 3 years ago, it would have been hard to imagine it happening. And happening in the public sphere, not only meeting in a living room here or there, coming and doing it outside together, knowing that we have something very important to raise our voices for together, otherwise all our voices will be shut. I was inspired yesterday when we walked in and there's this little exhibit of the BJ history, and to see there on the wall the sermon of the rabbi of this congregation from 1861. I don't know if to say pro-slavery or not against slavery. And to see that this synagogue is not erasing that rabbi's name from the wall, and not only that, puts it there and saying, this is part of who we are. This is part of our journey. We had to grow from that moment. Seeing it here reminds me that it's part of what we have to experience now. None of us will be able to erase this present from our history when it will become history at some point. We'll have to be able to look at it, to say, this has happened, this is us. From that, we're moving forward and growing and remembering that it is part of who we are. We're humans. Going back to this this morning's Torah portion, Kadoshim Tihiu is a mission. It's not a status. It's never a status. If you think it's your status, then you've lost it already. It's only a mission. And being here and everything that was said and everything that was brought to us, and everything that we're able to say here reminds me, I think reminds us all, that this is a mission that we're heading always on the journey to, and we're in it, as was said so many times, we're in it together. Thank you.
I think we're going to close. Felicia, I would like to ask Steve if you want to share some reflections on the spot. You have, as is well known now, invested so much in this relationship, in making it grow, in fostering it, and supporting it, and loving it, and guiding it, and there's nobody who has more than you has nurtured this. So maybe you want to share some.
You hear me now?
No, it doesn't work. Here's what.
All right, yeah. Okay. I feel that I'm part of both delegations, both the Israel and American delegation.
Steve, hold it.
I feel with the Israelis a great debt of gratitude to the BJ rabbis, to Roli and Felicia, and what the great admiration for what you do for the strengthening of American Judaism, and also for the leadership, the encouragement and inspiration you've given to Israelis, your Israeli partners. And as a BJ member, I have such admiration and respect for what you and Israel are doing to strengthen Judaism in Israel, and appreciation and gratitude for the relation that we've had together. you know, I thought a great deal about what I might say to this group. I thought long and hard. And then I asked myself a very Jewish question. What would my teachers say? So my first teacher was my father. Now we're here, you're really here because of the Julius Stolman Foundation. So what would my father Julius Stolman say? I think he would say this. Okay. Have faith. Times will change. Learn to live in change. Every moment is a new beginning. Don't dwell on the past. And then I think about, you know, Martin Buber. What would Buber say? Buber would say, what can be done? What should we do? These are abstract questions to which there's no answer. The real question is, what can I do? What can I do? And the answer is, do not withhold yourself. And then, of course, the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And the Rebbe would say, what you're all doing, I think, is wonderful, but do your children know why you're doing it? And finally, I remember the great Talmudic teacher Adin Steinsaltz, and I heard him say in this city 50 years ago that Judaism in Israel will develop in a different way from the diaspora, like there is a Babylonian Talmud and a Jerusalem Talmud. But we are still one people, and the Jewish people is a family and behaves like a family. And Israel is the family home. Some people live at home, and some people live outside. Some people send letters, some people visit, some people send money, and some people don't. And like a family, some of us argue, sometimes we even fight, but we are all a family. So as we...
And he's only 94. Wait until he gets to 100. I want to thank everybody.
We want to thank everybody. We want to thank Steve. It's very beautiful. And it's true, and which is why we're so blessed to have you as a community and a teacher too. So thank you. And thank you. I want to recognize that we were a little out of balance in the panel, and the reason was actually because a lot of BJ members don't know the history either. Because of the, we haven't had a delegation in many years, and the truth is the delegations have been the heart of the relationship. And because of coronavirus and the stopping of trips, and I had 2 women's trips canceled, one before in April of 2020, and one was supposed to be October of 2023. And Rolly had had a trip canceled too. So really we're trying to reignite the relational part of this story. And this is the way we know how to do it, is because that's the heartbeat of it. So the family part of it, which is, I just want to say also, we're all in partnership. Our communities are also based on partnership. You know, Rolly and I, and Esteban and Ronnie, and all the work, Hamidrasha, the original, I think, connection was about wanting to be in togetherness. And so we're learning how to build the togetherness again across the ocean. And we hope that the rest of the time together will be forward-looking. And I'm just going to reiterate again what's coming down the pike, so people can not only come but also bring other BJ members and other members, other people on the Upper West Side. This afternoon and tomorrow afternoon there are salons. There are a couple of spots in the teen and parent one, which is at Michelle Ender's house this afternoon. About Shira and Odette are doing about what Israeli music is teaching us about this moment. So if you are a parent of a teen or a teen yourself, I don't think there are teens here. And then Lee Paz and Ayala are going to be at Leah Silver and Adam Gilman's house with 20s and 30s. If you have, I don't think they're mostly 20s. Brooklyn, I think, is going about the next Jewish voice. And I think there are a couple of spots. Yeah, here we are. Thank you to Laura McKinney, who's our assistant, who's been amazing. Days of Sorrow, When One of Your Own is a Hostage, which is a story that Odette and Anna are going to be telling at Sally Gottesman's home. Is that today or tomorrow? Tomorrow at 5 o'clock. There are a couple of spots for that. Monday evening, actually Nami is teaching Monday after Minyan in the morning. Monday evening will be the panel around the meaning of Zionism. Tuesday evening, the meaning of post-October 7th work. And we really hope, now that we've celebrated and acknowledged what has been, that we're all forward-facing. Actually, not forward-facing. We're trying to also stay in the moment and be with each other and then move forward. Shabbat Shalom to everyone.